So F1's had a bit of time off these last few weeks, a perfect opportunity to hold the Goodwood Festival of Speed, this year celebrating 75 years of rich Formula 1 history and allowing the likes of Red Bull to reminisce about when they were good again. Well, shit.
That's rude.
Hey there guys, I'm Will and welcome to the Comedy Review, the show that has actually achieved more success than Alpine's 100 race project. That's not f***ing difficult, is it? It's also the show where we talk about things that happen in motorsport. Things like this. Fred Vasseur sums up Ferrari's season so far. Carlos Sainz recreates James Vowles' bedroom. This guy lives every McLaren fangirl's dream by sitting on Lando's face.
But it's all part of the memories of Silverstone.
So as usual, we've got a fair bit to get into then. And we start with one man in particular.
What the fuck have the FIA done this week? Oh, Mohammed, what the fuck have you done now?
Yes, the huge news in F1's mini break all surrounded Mohammed Ben Sulayem, who in the latest episode of Apprentice fired Britain's representative on the FIA Senate, Ben Cousins. No, I haven't heard of him either. This, of course, follows the Supreme Chancellor receiving emergency powers over the... Sorry, that's Star Wars, but actually it's not too far away from the truth. Emperor Palpatine here now has the power to hire and fire anyone from the Senate that he wants, and since Cousins here wasn't such a fan of FIA personnel being forced to sign NDAs, that's him out of the door. I received correspondence from the President saying he was appointing my successor. He gave no reason why, and there was no timeline as to when this would happen. As far as I'm aware, I haven't fallen out with him. Honestly, what next? Is he going to threaten to steal someone's lunch money? Or borrow their favourite pen and not give it back? What a f***ing man-child. There was, of course, some other big news this week. Ferrari were testing their new suspension upgrades. Or, no they weren't, it was just a normal filming day, with some convenient new parts added to the car. This sent the population of Italy into utter pandemonium, and with the prospect of a few extra sticks of carbon fibre completely turning the glue factory season around, what does Lewis think of his new bits?
The same as before.
Good, so they're still shit then. Now I think that's about it for the news. Oh, actually, how could I forget? There's a new team boss in town. Alan Panane is now taking over at Racing Bulls. Okay, apparently there's some bigger story I've completely forgotten to talk about, so volunteering to do that in my stead is DanNoSkill. So, here's DanNoSkill.
Hello! Now, as you may know, when FP1 Will was a child, he was he was sent a letter by Christian Horner when he was a young kid. So instead, he's asked me to do this segment of the video as he's struggling to cope with the loss of his daddy. Christian Horner was fired! This is huge news in the F1 world because until a random Wednesday like 2 weeks ago, the Horn Dog was the longest serving team principal on the F1 grid. He'd been in charge of Red Bull for 20 years, he'd brought the team from the bottom of the grid to the top, and he became an honorary member of the Spice Girls called Horny Spice. Christian's done it all, but included in that all is not just good things, he's also done bad things. Like he allegedly inappropriately messaged members of his team, which is probably how we got this picture of Sergio Perez caked the fuck up. Mwah! Delicioso. Plus, ever since Red Bull's co-founder Dietrich Mateschitz died, there's been a huge power struggle between the new Red Bull bosses, Horner, the one-eyed bastard, and Jos Verstappen. Because there were some rumors that came out just after Horner got fired that the Uvidya family, I pronounced that horribly probably, had lost some of their shares in the company, and that allowed Horner to be removed from his position. In simple terms, someone didn't want Horner there and paid a lot of money to get rid of him. I have managed to get my hands on some leaked messages from Christian Horner himself regarding the situation.
Come on, big boy! Show me your willy!
So as you can hear, that really offers us a lot of insight on what was going through the Horn Dog's head. As always with situations like this, we have some rumors on where Christian Horner might go next. The Tifosi are already bored of Fred.
I don't want to play with you anymore.
So there is a chance Horny Spice will go on over to Ferrari. Great, now not only will Charles Leclerc be depressed, he'll also be touched inappropriately. And then there is also Alpine. And the only reason this move seems to be appealing to Horner is that he'll be given the Toto Wolff treatment, which means an actual share in the business. And when you have a share in the business, it's very hard to kick you out, no matter who you cheat on your wife with. Of course, the huge downside of going to Alpine is, number one, they are French, and number two, they have the Epstein Islands equivalent equivalent of Helmut Marko for Horner to deal with, which is Flavio Briatore. So who knows where Christian will actually end up if he even comes back to Formula One. Cheers, Will, for having me on this episode. My name's DanNoSkill. I also do YouTube, and seriously, please subscribe, because if you don't, Fernando Alonso is going to tickle me in the night.
You should probably go and check Dan out. Or don't, he's bigger than me anyway. It's been a while, but it was sprint weekend time. That means just a single practice session, and therefore just a single hour for the drivers to get their eye in before sprint qualifying crushed Ferrari fans' hopes and dreams in the afternoon. Now, we've had a few weeks off, but as the session began, we were soon back to normal. A technical problem for Carlos Sainz's car, Williams continuing their mission to drive the Spaniard to an early suicide. Lance Stroll was another to admit he had a problem, and yeah, it's about time. Despite his test day, that totally wasn't a test day, but never mind, Lewis Hamilton still didn't appear to have a handle of his new prancing horse, practicing his corner-cutting skills, which as it turned out would just double as his qualifying runs. Now, Spa is a popular place for the junior ladder towards Formula One, however some of our rookie cohort needed reminding that Turn 1 indeed existed. You'd think the grandstands full of fans, dead ahead, might just be a bit of an indication, but there does seem to be a lot of orange in there, so maybe a terror-level event isn't such a bad thing after all. Behrman found an alternative location to have his customary f**k-up, but in the end, those orange fans, particularly the papaya ones, would be rather happy. Piastri topping the session as Norris got his bottle prep out of the way as we geared up for sprint qualifying. All eyes would be on the previous two pole sitters of this format in 2025, Ferrari's Lewis Hamilton and his Mercedes replacement, Kimi Antonelli, so I imagine everyone's surprised when both of those went out in SQ1. Kimi was first, mixing up his banker lap for a bunker lap, playing in the sand and compromising teammate Russell. Hamilton, meanwhile, had it all to do in the dying seconds until he took this never-before-seen line through the bus stop before attempting to ruin everyone else's attempt by just parking like a bell end on corner exit. Incredibly, the Ferrari driver was so this didn't even work, and he had joined Antonelli in the drop zone alongside Albon, Hulkenberg and Belgrano boy. SQ2 was a perfect example and a lesson of track evolution. Here's Liam Lawson going P5 with no time left on the clock. That sounds pretty safe, doesn't it? Well, Spa said no, as everyone in their dementia-ridden Nan managed to go faster. When the dust had settled, the New Zealander was 11th, George Russell found himself down in 13th, and Yuki Tsunoda was out as well. Okay, that one was less of a shock. Championship leader Oscar Piastri, meanwhile, had come into this weekend claiming momentum was still on his side. On the side of his car was all that was left of his entrails as he watched his name plummet down the order, only just to cling on in 10th. He had to redeem himself in the final session of the day, just 8 minutes of SQ3, and if you were at the track in person this weekend, I sure hope you enjoyed staring at empty tarmac for 7 of them. Drivers only went for 1 flying lap at the end of the session, and don't mind me, I'm just getting the bottle counter ready if we need it. We'll let the Britain off for now though, nothing went explicitly wrong with his run, but it was still only good enough for 3rd. Verstappen would go top for a moment before Piastri did pull it back to take pole for Saturday morning sprint. Further back, a big shout out to the Haas boys for 5th and 7th, for Ocon and Behrman respectively, and well done to Pierre Gasly too. P8 in that tractor of a car. Sure hope nothing goes wrong with that on Saturday. So something would go wrong on Gasly's car as Saturday morning rolled around, it promptly pissing itself and being withdrawn from the sprint. The other Alpine of Colapinto was also moved into the pit lane, Alpine having watched his antics in practice 1 and not wanted to risk a repeat with 18 cars in front of him. The lights would go out in the sprint then, and Oscar Piastri would get a monster start from pole. Unfortunately, this is probably the worst place to start from P1, as despite this, Verstappen used the slipstream heading up into Eau Rouge to snag the lead heading into Les Combes at the top of the hill. Leclerc would pull the same move on Norris, shuffling the Briton to 4th, a cracking start for the close racing then. Can't wait to see that continue for the next 15 laps. Oh, hang on a minute, I've just received a message. It's telling me to go f*** myself. In brighter news, Pierre Gasly was out on circuit, despite having already recorded a did not start, so don't bother asking me how that works. Can't lie though, it looks like a bit of a lonely time for the Frenchman out there. On the other side of the circuit, Norris had recovered from his mini bottle and was now back up to 3rd. Championship rival Piastri was the next car up the road, though having a harder time passing the slippery Red Bull of Max Verstappen. An opportunity presented itself when the Dutchman ran wide at the end of lap 10, though even this wasn't enough, the Red Bull staying in front. Maybe Gasly's faring a little bit better. Nah, he's still in no man's land. Let's just cut to the end of the race then, because this section has been so boring it might as well be sponsored by a VPN, and with one more chance, could Piastri clinch back the lead? No, Okay, Verstappen comes home in front, the McLarens round out the podium. As for Gasly, apparently he's retired again. DNS and a DNF in the same race, well, that's some sort of achievement, I guess. Props once again to the Haas lads for a double points finish. Not saying I'm their good luck charm or anything, but if you have a paddock pass going spare, I won't say no. Right, let's do this all again and pray it's actually interesting this time. Grand Prix qualifying acted as the perfect opportunity for Antonelli and Hamilton to redeem themselves, or if you're a little less forgiving, get their f***ing act together. Only the Italian stallion was off the pace yet again, and as he blubbered his way back to the media pen, Lulu could at least be proud he made it through. Oh, never mind, #washed has been corner cutting again. His subsequent demotion back to the bottom 5 saved the Sauber of Gabriel Bortoletto, who was rather chuffed with this news and has since become public enemy number 1 on social media. No race weekend would be without its Stroll moment as well. He welcomed Hulkenberg to the podium club by forgetting ghosting in the pit lane only exists when you're playing the F1 25 game. The big shock of Q2 was Yuki Tsunoda, making it into the top 10 shootout, but the fact that we're praising this kid for finishing 7th in the Red Bull just shows how far they've fallen, doesn't it? Oh, and while we're on the topic, yes, I'm aware Yuki's only technically got the same car specification as Max now, but it's only taken so long because Tsunoda tried auditioning for the Japanese gymnastics team in Imola, so it's his own fault, and you lot in the comments can go suck on a f***ing egg. Tsunoda made it through at the expense of Haas driver Ollie Behrman, who wasn't very happy with the Red Bull's tactics at the final corner, taking his frustrations out at turn 1, which I wouldn't recommend when you're on a quali lap. Anyway, onto the top 10 shootout then, and would it be a repeat of the Piastri dominance from the day before? Well, no. It appeared the tables had turned as Norris set the pace in the initial runs. That was such a good lap, the 4-car couldn't improve on it at the end of the session, providing a window opportunity to his teammate. Oscar would narrowly miss out, however, though judging from the start of the sprint, maybe P2 isn't the worst place to start anyway. Charles Leclerc did wonders putting that car up in P3 as it was caught, showing all the positive characteristics of the Titan submarine. And according to Twitter, this is also Carlos Sainz's fault for some reason. Speaking of, let's find out who's our ex-Bell End of the week. Actually, I think this might be our ex-Bell End of the year. We've had a lot of good suggestions thrown in this week. In fact, you've probably seen several sprinkled into this comedy review, but they were never going to top one in particular, and it seemed you guys thought so too. Do you ever have that guy at work who has his head shoved so far up his manager's arse it looks like your manager actually has 2 heads and more closely resembles a horrific abomination that should have been put down at birth? Well, as it turns out, F1 Twitter has one of those too. The good news? Well, we live in this fallacy of free speech, so people let him know exactly what they thought about it. For some added context, Tracklim here decided to just casually post the entire 2025 British Grand Prix to his account. Now, as someone who's, shall we say, forced to become a bit of an expert in copyright over the last 12 months, I'm not quite sure this one falls under fair use. Still, people are entertained. No one's realistically going to snitch to F1, are they? Well, that wasn't until Divesh here lived up to his name and turned into a massive f***ing div. Now, sometimes it can be quite challenging to find amusing responses to our Bell Ends of the week. This time, not so much. Peasants used to do unspeakable crimes to people like you. No one will mourn your death. Divesh's morning routine. I hope your socks are always wet. We need to start... Actually, I'm not actually sure I'm allowed to say that one. Now, it's very rare that someone manages to bring all of the corners of this hellspace together. But you know what, Divesh? You've done just that. Now we can all join in unison to call you a massive cunt. Thanks to the masses who alerted me of our potential ex-Bell End of the year, and if you'd like to nominate someone for a future entry, use the hashtag on screen, tag me on the platform, or join our Discord server. Now, on to race day. Oh look, it's how Divesh was born. Sunday opened with a leak sprint calendar for 2026, my ex-girlfriend, and rain. Actually, quite a lot of that. That would be a challenge for those forming up on the grid, though apparently that's not the cool thing anymore, the vibe instead shifting to the pit lane, which greeted Antonelli, Sainz, Alonso and Washed ahead of lights out. We'd find ourselves waiting for that for quite a while though, as after a single formation lap, the visibility was, hang on, let me find a technical term, shit. How do we improve that, you ask? Well, how about we have 20 of the fastest movers of water trundle around until it gets better? No, you'd rather them sit in the pit lane while we all watch a torrential rainstorm come in? Oh, okay, fair enough. That gave us a delay of over an hour, leading to the Alpines being allowed some additional testing in the wet conditions, a dramatic game of Connect 4 between the Red Bull and RB Twitter admins, and a long debate over whether the race had even started yet. Having dabbled in the fine print of the sporting regulations, it was finally deemed that we hadn't, so no need for a red flag meme then, right? No? Oh, well, it was worth a try, wasn't it? When we finally did get racing and were forced into a rolling start because Lando Norris is a little bitch, we could finally add one more to the bottle counter as he mucked up turn 1 and allowed Piastri the run of dreams heading down into Les Combes. The Australian took the lead then as his teammate was busy complaining about having no battery pack. Apparently he'd used it all up on the safety car restart. Exactly where was the real question, however. Now, over on Talk Shift this week, I predicted that Hamilton's P4 or higher record at the Belgian Grand Prix was likely under threat. Fair to say after qualifying, I was pretty happy about that prediction, so imagine my horror when he starts carving his way through the pack as the circuit began to dry. Life certainly got even better when Ferrari suggested it was time to pit for dry tyres. That call alone, and maybe more the people who made it, was enough to scare the rest of the paddock into waiting another lap. Only for once, maybe this was the right decision, and when it all evened out, the Britain was up into the top 7. McLaren had their own conundrum one lap later, as while they were still in a league of their own, Norris was too close to his teammate to double stack. That gave Piastri the undercut of dreams on lap 13 as Norris took the gamble to try out the hard compound tyres that were so bad by the end of the first sector, he'd already gone from P2 to PTSD. All hope was not over for the 4-car though, as Piastri was going to struggle on the faster degrading medium compound, and lo and behold, the Nozza was slowly bringing the gap down. Okay, granted, he made up about a second in 20 laps, and then proceeded to throw said second away when he himself at Pouin. Usually we'd move on to talk about someone in the midfield at this stage, though a bit like the rest of this race, not a whole lot was going on. Colapinto had provided some early action, but by about lap 10 everyone had made it past him, and sadly this track is too long for us to consider lap traffic for a fair while. Let's return to that leading fight then, and that second tick on the bottle counter has appeared to wake up old Nozza a little bit, closing the gap down to Piastri, who'd opted for pain and just to stick it out on the mediums till the end of the race. At the rate he was catching, Norris could make it up to his teammate in the closing. Oh, never mind, literally as I'm writing this bit, he's f***ed it again. With Sky Sports returning to predicting imaginary rain, that pretty much meant we were done with this one, and a final lock-up at turn 1 on the penultimate lap was enough to put this one away for the 81 machine. Piastri would come across the line then to put himself back on top, Norris too far behind to make a challenge, and you know what? I felt a little bit harsh awarding 4 bottles in this race alone, but additionally, if he hadn't cocked up the start, he'd be in a better position for strategy, and if he'd been able to keep all 4 wheels on the track, he might actually have had the gap to make this one vaguely interesting at the end. So we went through an hour and a half of a rain delay, or let me put that better, an hour and a half of tolerating the existence of Nico f***ing Rosberg for that. How exactly you managed to have a wet to dry race that's also shit, I don't understand, but fair play, Spa. Guess you can take something away from this weekend. I can't have those hours back, so f*** you. In terms of shout-outs, we should still congratulate Lewis Hamilton. My prediction's still safe, but P7 at the flag isn't a bad recovery at all. Well done to Leclerc as well for holding off Verstappen all race long to take a deserved podium. And finally, shout out to the highlights editor, who no doubt has still managed to make their video long enough for mid-roll ads. I honestly think we were robbed of an absolute thriller here, so here's my race rating. Let me know yours down in the comments below. While you're there, drop a like and get subscribed to the channel for hopefully some more entertaining content for the rest of the year. We've got an IndyCar comedy review coming up tomorrow, and I'm pretty sure their opening practice was more entertaining than this entire weekend, so keep an eye out for that. Final big thank you goes out to the members and patrons who got an early preview to this one, got an exclusive video earlier in the week, and can watch my 2026 driver predictions video for next week right now. If that's not a good enough reason to check it out, then I don't know what is. Links are in the description below. Right, now it's time to watch something vaguely interesting. So in the meantime, f*** off.